The phone buzzed on the nightstand, a sharp vibration that cut through the quiet hum of the air conditioner. I glanced at the screen, expecting the usual late-night scroll through notifications from work emails or group chats. But this was different. The number started with 207, Maine. I live in Ohio, a good 1,000 miles from there, and the message read, "I see the light in your window. It's been on all night." I sat up in bed, heart picking up a notch. The house was dark except for the faint glow from the street lamp outside filtering through the blinds. No one was out there. It had to be a wrong number, some glitch in the system. I typed back quickly, "Wrong person." Then I blocked it, or at least I thought I did. Sleep came uneasy after that. The kind where you wake up every hour checking the locks. My name is Emily Carter, and I've lived in this quiet suburb of Columbus for the past 5 years. It's the kind of place where everyone knows your name but not much else. Neat lawns, 2-car garages, and kids riding bikes until the streetlights flicker on. I work as a graphic designer for a small marketing firm downtown, commuting in my reliable Honda Civic along the same stretch of I-270 every morning. Mornings start with coffee from the Keurig, a quick scan of the news on my phone, and letting the dog out into the backyard. Routine. Safe. The kind of life you build after a messy divorce, when you're just trying to keep things steady. That Monday, everything felt a little off from the start. The coffee tasted slightly bitter, like I'd forgotten to clean the machine, but I hadn't. At the office, my computer took longer to boot up, and there was an email from a client I'd never heard of, asking about a project that wasn't on my calendar. I shook it off as a busy week creeping in. By afternoon, rush hour traffic was the usual crawl, brake lights stretching like a red river under the gray Ohio sky. I pulled into the driveway just as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the cul-de-sac. The phone was silent until I was unloading groceries from the trunk. Another buzz. Same 207 area code. "You left the back door unlocked again. Careful." My stomach twisted. I hadn't mentioned anything about doors to anyone. Rushing inside, I checked. The deadbolt was secure, just like I'd left it. The dog, Max, barked once at nothing, his ears perked toward the kitchen window. I laughed it off nervously, telling myself it was some prankster app or a hacked contact list. Still, I double-checked every window before settling in for the evening. Dinner was takeout from the local Thai place on the corner, patsy udelu and spring rolls, eaten in front of the TV with a true crime documentary droning in the background. The host was talking about digital footprints, how phones could track you across states without you knowing. I muted it halfway through, not in the mood for paranoia. But as I washed the dishes, the unease lingered. The house creaked more than usual, the old floorboards settling underfoot. Upstairs, in the hallway mirror, I caught my reflection and paused. Was that a shadow moving behind me? Just the light from the bulb swinging slightly in the draft. That night, I tried to unwind with a book, some light mystery novel I'd picked up at the library. The words blurred after a few pages. The phone stayed dark on the charger, and I convinced myself it was over. But around midnight, it lit up again. "Why do you keep looking out the window? I'm right here." This time there was an attachment, a blurry photo of my front porch. The Adirondack chair I'd bought last summer, visible in the foreground, taken from across the street maybe. My hands shook as I enlarged it. No details, no face, just the familiar outline of my house under the sodium glow of the lamppost. I didn't sleep. Instead, I paced the living room, phone in hand, debating whether to call the police. What would I say? Some texts from a Maine number. It sounded ridiculous, like those spam calls everyone gets, but the photo, that was too close. I scrolled through my contacts, double-checking for any old numbers from vacations or ex-friends. Nothing with 207. A quick search on my laptop confirmed it. Area code for coastal Maine, lobster shacks and lighthouses, places I'd never been. The website even showed the population stats, small towns hugging the Atlantic. Irrelevant, but it made the whole thing feel even more distant, more impossible. By dawn, the sky outside was a pale wash of blue, and I was nursing a second cup of coffee, eyes burning from lack of rest. Max whined at my feet, sensing the tension. I decided to drive to work early, get out of the house. As I backed out of the driveway, my phone buzzed once more on the passenger seat. I pulled over at the stop sign, heart hammering. Safe travels, watch the rear view. I glanced in the mirror. Empty street, just the neighbor's minivan idling 2 houses down, like always. But for the first time, I wondered if it was really empty. The rest of the day blurred into meetings and deadlines, but I couldn't shake it. Every notification made me jump. Every shadow in the parking lot seemed deliberate. Back home that evening, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the phone like it was a live wire. No new messages, but the silence felt heavier, expectant. I thought about changing my number, moving maybe, but that was crazy. This was my home, my life. Still, as the sun set and the house grew quiet again, I found myself drawn to the window, peering out into the gathering dusk. Was that a flicker of movement across the street? Or just my imagination, twisting the ordinary into something sinister? Little did I know, it was only the beginning. The days that followed blurred into a haze of routine laced with doubt. I stuck to my schedule like it was a lifeline. Coffee at 7 a.m. The drive along I-270 with the radio tuned to the local NPR station. Then the fluorescent-lit office, where deadlines waited like unanswered questions. But every vibration from my phone sent a jolt through me, even if it was just a weather alert or a reminder from the grocery app. I hadn't gotten any more messages since that last one in the car, but the absence felt like a held breath waiting to exhale. By Wednesday, I was rationalizing it all away. Maybe a neighbor had borrowed a burner phone for some joke, or it was one of those viral pranks circulating on social media. People spoofing numbers to mess with folks in other states. I'd even laughed about it with Sarah at lunch, my co-worker who handled the social media side of things. She scrolled through her phone, showing me a thread about similar scams. See? Happens all the time. Block it and forget. Her words were easy, delivered over salads from the deli downstairs, but they didn't stick. Not when I got home that evening and noticed the mail piled higher than usual on the kitchen counter, bills, junk flyers, and a plain envelope with no return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, typed in plain font. The dog knows. He sees me too. My pulse quickened as I crumpled it, glancing at Max dozing by the back door. He lifted his head, eyes locking onto mine for a moment before he yawned and settled back down. The note had to be a coincidence, maybe a wrong delivery, or some neighborhood busybody's idea of concern after seeing me fuss over the locks. But as I tossed it in the trash, my eyes caught the postmark. Portland, Maine. 27 area code territory again. I fished it out, smoothing the paper against the table, staring at the stamp until the letters swam. Portland wasn't just any town, it was a port city, all brick warehouses and ferries cutting through foggy bays. I'd looked it up obsessively the night before, pulling up maps and street views on my laptop, as if distance could explain the intrusion. That night, sleep evaded me once more. The house felt larger, emptier, its walls echoing with the tick of the clock in the living room. I double-checked the doors, the windows, even the garage where my Civic sat under the bare bulb. Everything secure. Still, I dragged a chair into the hallway upstairs, phone in lap, scrolling through forums about anonymous texts. Stories popped up, people receiving warnings from numbers tied to empty lots or defunct lines. One user claimed it was government testing, another swore it was a glitch in the carrier's system. None of it rang true for me. Why my house? Why the details that felt pulled from my own life, like threads unraveling from a sweater I didn't know was fraying? Thursday morning brought rain. A steady drizzle that turned the suburbs into a watercolor of greys. The wipers slapped rhythmically on the windshield as I merged onto the interstate, the Ohio fields stretching out like a damp blanket. At a red light near the exit, my phone lit up on the dash mount. Unknown number 207 prefix. Rain makes it easier to watch, the reflections in the puddles. I slammed on the brakes a second too late, the car lurching as the light changed. No one behind me, no splash of tires in the rear view. Just the endless line of commuters, hoods up against the wet, oblivious. I pulled into the office lot early, parking under the overhang near the back entrance. The building was a squat brick thing, surrounded by a strip mall with a Starbucks and a dry cleaner. I sat there for 10 minutes, engine idling, debating whether to reply. What harm in it? Who is this? Stop! My thumb hovered, then pressed send before I could overthink. The response came almost immediately. Someone who knows your route. The blue sedan, 2 cars back. It's been following since the diner last week. I twisted in my seat, scanning the lot. A blue Honda? No, just the usual sedans and SUVs, doors slamming as people hurried inside. But now I remembered. The Thai place wasn't a diner, but there was a Waffle House off the exit where I'd stopped for coffee once, ages ago. Paranoia, I told myself, gripping the wheel until my knuckles whitened. Work dragged that day. My designs for the new client pitch looked off, colors bleeding into each other on the screen like the rain outside. I skipped lunch, nursing a bottle of water at my desk, jumping at every ping from the shared Slack channel. By 4 p.m., the sky had darkened early, streetlights humming to life along the access road. On the drive home, I took a detour, looping through side streets lined with ranch-style homes and chain-link fences. No blue car in sight, but the unease clung like humidity. Pulling into the driveway, I noticed the porch light was on. I'd forgotten to set the timer again. Or had I? Inside, the house smelled faintly of damp from a window I'd cracked earlier. Max greeted me with his usual tail wag, but he stuck close, shadowing my steps to the kitchen. I microwaved leftovers, chicken stir-fry from the weekend, poking at it without appetite. The TV flickered onto some sitcom rerun, canned laughter filling the silence, but I barely heard it. My phone stayed quiet through dinner, through the dishes, even as I curled up on the couch with a blanket. Relief crept in, tentative, like the first clear patch in the clouds. Then, as I headed upstairs around 9, it buzzed in my pocket. The light's on again. Good night, Emily. My name. For the first time, my actual name. I froze on the landing, hand on the banister, staring at the screen. How? I'd never shared it in any reply. The hallway stretched long and dim, the bedroom door at the end slightly ajar. Had I left it that way? I pushed it open slowly, the hinges whispering. The room was as I'd left it, bed made, lamp off, curtains drawn against the night. But on the nightstand next to the charger sat my laptop. I'd sworn I'd closed it that morning, screen black and lid shut. Now it was open, the power light pulsing faintly, as if it had just woken up. I snapped it shut, heart thudding, and plugged in my phone with trembling fingers. No more messages came, but the quiet pressed in, thick and watchful. Lying in bed, eyes fixed on the ceiling fan's lazy spin, I replayed the week, the texts, the note, the details that shouldn't fit. Isolation wrapped around me like the sheets, the suburb outside suddenly feeling vast and exposed, all those identical houses hiding eyes in the dark. Max jumped up beside me, a warm weight against my side. But even his breathing seemed measured, alert. Outside, the rain picked up again, tapping the roof like impatient fingers. I told myself it was nothing, just shadows playing tricks. But deep down, a whisper grew. What if it wasn't? What if whatever this was had been there all along, waiting for me to notice? Friday morning dawned with a stubborn fog clinging to the streets, muting the suburb's sharp edges into something softer, almost dreamlike. I woke to the alarm's insistent beep, my body heavy from another fragmented night. Max was already at the bedroom door, pawing gently, his routine urging me forward. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, the carpet cool under my feet, and glanced at the laptop, still closed, untouched since I'd slammed it shut. No new notifications on the phone either. Just the usual cascade, weather app warning of lingering mist, a calendar reminder for a team meeting at noon. I exhaled slowly, trying to shake off the residue of yesterday's chill. Breakfast was oatmeal from a packet, stirred absent-mindedly while I stared out the kitchen window. The backyard fence blurred in the haze, the neighbor's maple tree a vague silhouette. It was one of those Ohio autumn mornings where the air hung thick, carrying the faint scent of wet leaves from the storm drains. I leashed Max for his walk, the collar jingling as we stepped onto the sidewalk. The cul-de-sac was quiet, save for the distant hum of a lawnmower starting up 2 blocks over. Mrs. Hargrove waved from her porch, bundled in a cardigan, her daily ritual of sipping tea from a floral mug. "Foggy one today, Emily," she called, her voice carrying soft through the damp. I nodded back, forcing a smile, but my eyes scanned the empty driveways, the parked cars with dew beading on their windshields. No blue sedan, no unfamiliar faces peering from behind curtains. The walk helped, a little. Max tugged at the leash toward the park at the end of the street, his nose to the ground, oblivious to my tightening grip on the phone in my pocket. By the time I got him back inside and grabbed my keys, the fog had thinned just enough to reveal the familiar route to the interstate. I-270 was a crawl as usual, semis lumbering alongside like grey behemoths, their tires hissing on the damp asphalt. The radio droned traffic updates, interspersed with ads for local car dealerships and weekend craft fairs. I tuned it out, focusing on the white lines blurring past, willing the day to unfold normally. At the office, the building's lobby smelled of fresh coffee from the machine by the elevators. Sarah caught me as I stepped off, her heels clicking on the tile. "You look like you need this," she said, handing me a to-go cup from the Starbucks run. We rode up together, chatting about the pitch revisions, safe topics, grounding. But as I settled at my desk, the screen flickering to life, doubt crept back in. The email from that unknown client was gone, deleted or archived somewhere. But its absence felt deliberate, like a gap in a puzzle I hadn't asked to solve. I dove into my work, tweaking layouts for a real estate brochure, the cursor clicking steadily. Hours slipped by, the fog outside burning off into a pale sun that cast watery light across the parking lot. Lunch was a sandwich from the vending machine, eaten at my station while scrolling through more forums on my phone. Hidden in the break room's hum of microwaves and small talk, I typed queries about spoofed numbers and anonymous mail. Responses varied. Tech glitches, ex-partners with grudges, even overzealous marketers testing personalized spam. One post stuck with me. A woman in Texas who'd gotten similar notes, tied to an old family address she'd never shared online. It ended unresolved, the thread trailing into speculation. I bookmarked it, then deleted my search history, as if erasing the trail could erase the intrusion. The afternoon meeting dragged under fluorescent lights, projections flickering on the conference room wall. I nodded along to budget talks, but my mind wandered to the postmark on the envelope. The way Portland's name evoked images of cobblestone streets and salt-tanged air. Places from postcards. Not my life. When it ended, I lingered, pretending to organize notes, watching colleagues file out. The lot below seemed ordinary, sedans pulling away, a delivery truck idling by the loading dock. No one watching. Still, as I headed to my car, I took the long way around the building, keys threaded between my fingers, like a makeshift ward. The drive home was uneventful, the sun dipping low and turning the fields golden at the edges. I stopped at the grocery store on Fifth Avenue, the one with the wide aisles and muzak piping overhead. Basket in hand, I picked up essentials, milk, bread, a frozen lasagna for one. moving mechanically past the cereal displays and the floral section, where mums bloomed in orange bursts. At checkout, the cashier, a tired-looking woman with a name tag reading Barb, scanned my items with a scanner's beep. "Quiet day," she remarked, bagging the milk. I murmured agreement, but as I loaded the trunk, my phone vibrated against my thigh. I fumbled it out, screen glowing in the fading light, 207 prefix. Picking up dinner again? The lasagna's no good this week, too much salt. I dropped the bags. Milk carton thudding softly against the pavement. No spill, just a dull ache in my chest as I scanned the lot. Shoppers pushing carts toward minivans, a family with toddlers piling into an SUV, the automatic doors whooshing open and shut. No one near me, no eyes lingering. How could they know? I'd decided on the lasagna on impulse, right there in the freezer aisle, no list, no hesitation. My fingers flew across the screen. "How do you know this? Who are you?" "Send." The response pinged back before I'd even straightened up. "I know, because I've been in that store. Aisle 7, third freezer from the left. Remember the man who let you pass?" Aisle 7. The memory hit like a cold draft. The narrow path, an older guy in a flannel shirt stepping aside with a nod. His cart half full of canned soups. Harmless, forgettable. But now... I slammed the trunk, sliding into the driver's seat, locks clicking down. The engine roared to life and I peeled out of the lot, tires squealing faintly on the blacktop. Home was 10 minutes away, but I drove like it was an escape, checking mirrors every few seconds. Empty road behind, just the taillights of a pickup fading into the distance. Pulling into the driveway, the house looked unchanged, porch light off, windows dark against the twilight. Max's bark echoed from inside as I unlocked the door, groceries clutched like shields. I dumped them on the counter, hands shaking as I unpacked. The lasagna went straight into the trash, wrapper unopened, dinner forgotten. I paced the kitchen, phone on the table like a suspect under interrogation. No more messages, but the silence amplified every creak, the fridge humming, the clock ticking toward evening. I called my carrier from the landline, voice steady as I explained the spoofed texts. The rep was polite, apologetic, promising to flag the number for investigation. "Could take a few days," she said. "In the meantime, document everything." I did, snapping photos of the screen, the crumpled note from the trash, even the lasagna box. The laptop upstairs stayed closed. I wouldn't touch it tonight. Instead, I ordered pizza from the app, something simple, delivered, no store runs. While waiting, I drew the blinds tighter, the suburb outside reduced to slivers of sodium-lit street. The delivery guy arrived neutral-faced, exchanging cash for the box with a quick, "Have a good one." I ate at the table, cheese stringing from slice to mouth, but the flavors dulled, overshadowed by the what-ifs swirling in my head. As night deepened, I retreated to the living room, TV on low to some nature documentary. Whales gliding through deep currents, narrators murmuring about unseen depths. Max curled at my feet, his warmth a small anchor. The phone remained dark, but around 10, as I rinsed the plate, it buzzed once. "The whale's not alone in the dark, neither are you." Attached was a photo, my kitchen window, taken from the backyard. The blinds parted just enough to frame the sink where I stood now. The timestamp read 2 minutes ago. I backed away, pulse roaring in my ears, flipping lights on throughout the house. The backyard was empty through the glass, fence shadowed, grass still damp from the rain. No footprints, no figures, just the quiet sprawl of lawns, stretching to the next row of homes, all buttoned up against the night. I grabbed a flashlight from the drawer, beam slicing through the dark as I stepped onto the deck. The air was crisp, carrying the neighbor's distant TV murmur. Nothing stirred. Back inside, doors bolted, I sank onto the couch, the documentary forgotten, whales forgotten. The intrusion wasn't distant anymore. It was here, woven into the walls, the routines I'd trusted. Sleep would come eventually, fitful and shallow, But in that moment the house felt like a stage, and I, the unwitting performer, with an audience I couldn't see. The fog from morning had lifted, but a new haze settled in my mind, thick and unrelenting. Saturday morning arrived with a deceptive calm, the kind that follows a storm, but leaves the air heavy with uncertainty. I woke to sunlight slanting through the blinds, casting striped patterns across the bedroom floor. Max was already up, his nails clicking softly as he paced the hallway, waiting for his breakfast. The phone lay on the nightstand, screen dark and innocent in the morning light. No new messages overnight, just the ghost of yesterday's photo lingering in my mind like a half-remembered dream. I reached for it first thing, thumb swiping through the notifications. Nothing. Relief washed over me, tentative, as I padded downstairs in my robe, the house creaking underfoot in its familiar way. Coffee brewed strong, the aroma filling the kitchen as I let Max out the back door. The yard looked ordinary in the daylight, dew-kissed grass, the fence posts straight and unyielding, no sign of disturbance. I stood at the window for a long moment, scanning the edges where shadow met sun. But the neighborhood stirred to life around me, cars humming down the street, a jogger in neon leggings passing by with earbuds in. It was the weekend, a day for errands or lazy lounging, not this knot of dread twisting in my gut. I poured my mug, added a splash of milk from the fridge, and sat at the table, scrolling through emails on my laptop. Work could wait. Today I needed answers. The carrier's promise echoed in my head. Document everything, they'd investigate. I compiled the screenshots into a folder, timestamps glaring like accusations. The window light, the back door, the grocery run, the backyard shot. Each one peeled back another layer of my privacy, exposing routines I'd taken for granted. The suburb outside my window bustled now. Families loading SUVs for soccer games or trips to the mall. The world moving on while mine tilted. I debated calling the police again, but what evidence? Texts from a ghost number, a note anyone could have dropped in a mailbox. It felt too insubstantial, like chasing smoke. By noon, the sun climbed higher, burning off the last wisps of chill. I decided on a drive, clear my head, maybe stop at the library for a distraction. Keys in hand, I backed out of the driveway, the Civic's engine purring steadily. The streets wound through the neighborhood, past identical colonials with American flags fluttering from porches, then onto the wider roads leading to Route 23. Traffic was light, just the occasional pickup hauling landscaping gear or a school bus idling at a crosswalk. My phone stayed silent on the passenger seat. A small mercy. I tuned the radio to a classic rock station, guitars wailing softly as the miles ticked by. The library was a low-slung building off Main Street, its parking lot dotted with sedans and a few minivans. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and old paper, a comforting hush broken only by the murmur of patrons at computer stations. I wandered the aisles, fingers trailing spines, mysteries, biographies, anything to pull me from the loop in my head. A title caught my eye. Shadows in the Signal, about digital hauntings in the modern age. I checked it out, the librarian scanning the barcode with a neutral smile, and headed to a nearby diner for lunch. The place was a staple, formica counters and vinyl booths. Waitresses calling orders to the grill. I ordered a club sandwich and iced tea, settling into a corner spot by the window overlooking the street. As I ate, the book opened before me. My phone buzzed once. I froze, fork midway to my mouth. 207 again. The book won't help. It's not in the pages. My appetite vanished, the sandwich turning to cardboard. I looked around the diner, families at tables, a trucker nursing coffee at the counter, the waitress refilling sugars. No one paying me mind. How? I'd picked the book on impulse. No searches, no hints. I typed back, voice of reason cracking. This has to stop. Tell me why. The reply came swift. Because you left the door open in Portland. Remember the fog? Portland. The word hit like a wave, cold and disorienting. I'd never been there, never stepped foot in Maine. But the fog. Fragments stirred, hazy images from years ago before the divorce, before this house. A business trip? No, that was Chicago. I pushed the plate away, paying quickly and stepping out into the afternoon glare. The drive home blurred, my mind racing through old calendars, forgotten emails. Nothing surfaced, just a vague unease, like déjà vu twisted wrong. Back in the driveway, the house waited, windows, blank eyes. Max bounded to greet me, but I barely registered him, heading straight to the attic, a dusty space I'd avoided since moving in. Boxes of ex-husband relics, holiday decorations, and file folders from my pre-Ohio life. I rifled through them, paper cuts stinging my fingers, searching for any link to Maine. Tax returns, receipts, a stack of photos from a conference in Boston. Close, but not there. Then tucked in a yellowed envelope, a boarding pass, Portland International Jetport, dated 8 years ago. My breath caught. A layover? No, the itinerary showed a rental car pickup, a hotel reservation for 2 nights. Why couldn't I remember? The pieces shifted, not snapping into place, but grinding against each other. That trip, vague now, a blur of meetings for a freelance gig, coastal drives in rental mist. I'd met someone there, a contact for the project, drinks at a harbourside bar with fog rolling in off the water. Harmless, professional. Or had it been? The messages echoed, the light, the door, the route. What if this wasn't intrusion from afar, but an echo from my own forgotten steps? I sank onto a box. The attic air thick with insulation and time, phone clutched in my lap. It buzzed again. You see it now. The number exists because you do. Downstairs, evening settled like a shroud. I cooked pasta, the steam rising in the kitchen, but ate mechanically, staring at the boarding pass on the table. Max watched from his bed, head tilted. The suburb quieted outside, distant laughter from a barbecue, crickets starting their chorus. No more texts came, but the silence hummed with implication. Had I left a trail there, a loose end that followed me home? Or was it simpler, someone from that fog-shrouded weekend piecing together my life from public records, social traces I'd overlooked? Night fell, the house dimming room by room. I locked up early, drawing every blind. But the darkness pressed closer now, not from outside, but within. Lying in bed, the ceiling fan whirring above, I replayed the week, the texts as mirrors, reflecting not just my days, but buried fragments. Sleep came in fits. Dreams of lighthouses blinking through mist, a figure at the edge of vision, familiar yet unnamed. Morning would bring decisions, change the number, dig deeper into that trip. Maybe even visit Portland to confront the void. But as the clock ticked past midnight, one certainty lingered. The messages had stopped, but the watching hadn't. It was part of me now, a quiet shadow in the routine, waiting for the next fog to roll in. And in the suburb's endless quiet, that felt like the most unsettling truth of all.